If you've ever felt an unshakable restlessness deep in your soul, a subtle but constant sense that something is off, this might be your spiritual wake-up call. Because the truth is, not everyone who claims to follow Christ is actually living in their God-given purpose, and the signs are often hidden in plain sight. One of the first and most shocking signs is the emptiness you feel even when you're doing good things, volunteering, attending church, praying out loud, but still walking away numb, because busyness in ministry isn't the same as fruitfulness and purpose. You can build an image of faith while secretly starving your spirit, like in Revelation 3 verse 1, where Jesus says, "You have a reputation of being alive, but you are dead." You start confusing motion for meaning, and that's dangerous. Another silent indicator is when your decisions are driven more by fear than faith. If you constantly choose what's safe, familiar, or socially acceptable, you may be protecting comfort instead of pursuing calling. And that's not obedience, that's spiritual avoidance. Remember, Peter stepped out of the boat while the others stayed dry but missed the miracle. Matthew 14:29. And here's the third warning. You constantly compare your path to others, measuring your worth against someone else's Instagram ministry or platform, forgetting that purpose was never meant to be copy-pasted. It's crafted in the secret place with God, not borrowed from someone else's highlight reel. Galatians 6:4 says, each one should test their own actions. If you find yourself restless even after reaching your goals, that's another clue, because purpose doesn't settle in shallow wins. It demands eternal impact, not temporary applause, and the Spirit will not let you feel satisfied with crumbs when you were created for kingdom-level influence. And maybe the clearest but most ignored sign is that you're always chasing clarity, but never taking steps, because you're waiting for the full blueprint when God already gave you the next step. And delayed obedience is disobedience cloaked in prayerful hesitation. Just like Abraham in Genesis 12, who moved without a map because he trusted the caller more than the route. Some of you keep asking for a sign while ignoring the nudge and that tension inside you. That's not anxiety. It's your purpose being suffocated by your own inaction. You know you're not walking in purpose when peace feels foreign, when worship feels like a chore, when conviction starts to sound like criticism, and when everything around you feels louder than the still, small voice that once moved you to tears. Even your relationships shift. People who once inspired you now distract you, and you cling to connections that comfort your compromise rather than sharpen your calling. If you're surrounding yourself with people who applaud your excuses but not your growth, that's not fellowship. That's spiritual sedation. Romans 12:2 warns us not to conform to the patterns of this world, but if you've become indistinguishable from the crowd, talking the same, desiring the same, idolizing the same comfort and status, then maybe you've traded identity for acceptance. And let's not ignore this. Some of you are battling secret sin that feels impossible to shake, not because you're weak, but because you're out of alignment. When you're not walking in purpose, temptation feels louder, and identity feels unstable. And Satan knows that a distracted believer is more useful to his plans than an atheist ever could be. You can preach while still in chains, perform while still in rebellion, and everyone around you may clap, while heaven stays silent. The purpose God has for you is not always glamorous, but it's always sacred. And if your prayers sound more like demands than surrender, that's another clue that you're trying to manipulate outcomes rather than submit to God's will. You were not created to merely exist. You were created to occupy, to advance, to build, to speak, to deliver, to heal, to break generational cycles. And the longer you delay your yes to God, the more people suffer, because your assignment isn't just about you. It's about every soul attached to your obedience. The enemy isn't just afraid of who you are now. He's terrified of who you become when you finally live on purpose. So here's the challenge. Stop pretending you're fine when your spirit is starving. Stop hiding behind waiting on God when He's been waiting on you. Shake off the excuses, get back into alignment, and dare to ask the Holy Spirit where you've drifted, because no success will ever satisfy like walking boldly in what you were born for.